I think this is where, on this issue, Glasgow is where Scott Morrison lost the most bark. I think that's where, I mean, the Labor people are against him anyway. They're not going to vote for him over what they imagined were all these things going on in Canberra regarding women and other things. But I think he lost a lot of skin on the whole issue of net zero and that Glasgow commitment. I think he lost his base on that issue. And now you've got the issue of renewables, which Labor thought would be an absolute winner. I mean, they keep telling everyone renewables are cheap, nothing cheaper than wind and solar. But as it's being rolled out, as these towers are turning up into communities, I mean, you wrote about the marine issues with these offshore wind farms this week in the paper. But as all of this is happening and it's real to people, they're seeing it in their towns and their communities, that support's falling away here in Australia as well.
I think that's really the evidence that's coming to the fore. The public protests to this rollout shouldn't be underestimated, and the problem is for the government, it's vital that these things happen or there be a plan B. Chris Bowen has shown he's determined not to accept any deviation. Greg Combay has been brought in to really coordinate things and marshal the superannuation funding into it. But it all relies ultimately on public acceptance. And there's no evidence that that is going to be anywhere near as smooth as they would have hoped.
I mentioned, you touched on the whole issue of these offshore wind farms. I mean, they are massive. But I've got some figures for people at home that suggest that every single one of the turbines in the country, right around Australia, gets something in the order of $600,000 a year in subsidies per annum, even though they only provide us with power 25% of the time. This is madness.
Yeah, this is why Warren Buffett said, look, these things are great as a tax break. People have really invested in this sort of stuff because it's government money that's spent to prop it up. They're always telling government, look, it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be cheaper. In fact, those costs don't seem to be falling for the taxpayer. The 25% is sort of reflects that they don't work all the time. So you can say you've got this massive amount of megawatt hours installed, but the amount of power that comes out of it is only a fraction of that, and you can't actually determine with any precision how much it's going to be. So this is the difficulty for the planners of the electricity system to try and make that work. And unfortunately, you know, there's a preference that has been given to dispatch for these things, which just makes the challenge greater.
Graham, you talk about, you know, issues with whales. We know in Tasmania, Bob Brown and others have raised real concerns about wind turbine towers and eagles. I guess my other worry too is, where is the decommissioning plan for all of this kit? I mean, those towers will last us 15 years tops. That's what the recent report from Siemens says. We might get 20 years out of these great big seas of solar farms out on the land. But who's going to come and take them away and put them into a recycling plan of some order and give us our landscape back? What's going to happen?
Well, this is right. And if you think particularly on the onshore wind developments, each turbine has a massive concrete bunker underneath it, which is never going to be taken away. Recycling is a huge issue. The cost of decommissioning is something that really hasn't been addressed.
No, it hasn't, and most of these companies are foreign. They'll take the subsidies, they'll take the profits, and we'll be left with the mess. Graham, Lloyd, thank you as always.